Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Shubda Chaudhary, and this is Middle East Insights platform. Today, I want to share with you two stories, and both of them I have experienced. The first is in 2016 when I went to West Bank. There, in a small corner of East Jerusalem, I met an 18 to 20-year-old young girl. The Palestinian girl was very, very confident and courageous. I started having conversation with her. And then I asked her where her parents are and where does she live. I was quite shocked to hear her response. She told me that every Palestinian gets a permit to travel within West Bank, be it from Jericho to Nablus, from Nablus to Nazareth, from Nazareth to Bethlehem, and many other areas. She was born in East Jerusalem in her grandmother's house. After the delivery was over, the time permit that her parents received also ended. Her parents had to leave East Jerusalem and go back to where they came from. She could not go with them because, according to the Israeli law, she did not have the permit. So just imagine, for the past 17, 18, 20 years, this young girl has seen her parents only few times. Getting a permit is not easy. That created a certain kind of thought in me. Later, I would virtually meet Mao's Inon, who is one of the most forthcoming Israeli peacemakers. His own parents were killed by Hamas on October 7th last year. In spite of this terrible tragedy and massive loss that he suffered, he told me that the only solution, which a lot of Israelis believe, is peace. Now let's think about what happened yesterday or day before yesterday in Amsterdam. One side of propaganda says that it was a false flag operation by Mossad. It was all orchestrated. The other side says that no, it was a completely orchestrated movement by Islamists whose numbers are rising in Europe. They had taken footprints of all the Israeli soccer fans in Amsterdam, and this was a pogrom. Our mind is taught to think in a binary. Both can be true at the same time. Rumi once said that outside of the circle or space of right doing and wrong doing, I'll meet you there in that space. When you want to understand Israel-Palestine, it's not just Israel and Palestine that you have to understand. You also have to understand the origin of Judaism, why the concept of the temples, the promised land. Moses himself was never able to see the promised land in his life. Or in fact, who was Moses? Then the rise of Christianity. Who was Jesus Christ? He was born a Jew. And thirdly, most importantly, the rise of Islam. Prophet Muhammad was a military administrator, religious leader, and a fighter. At the same time, we have a lot of Armenians also in East Jerusalem. So what was their role? When did they migrate? And why did they migrate? Where is Armenia? Having a binary thought that this side is correct and that side is wrong means that you are becoming a victim of what Antonio Gramsci said, that the world is changing, the old world is dying, the new world struggles to be born. This is the time for monsters. We have to think about everyone, be it more than 43,000 Gazans who have been killed. The victims have been a 1-day-old child to a 97-year-old woman, to more than 100, 150, we don't even know how many Israeli hostages who were taken captive are still not back. Can you imagine the kind of pain, trauma, tragedy, resilience that the families are facing as media continues to propagandize it into a binary process, leaving no room for the empirical identities, realities of people who are actually dying and suffering on both the sides. The reason Middle East Insights was founded primarily because we are completely neutral and we do not adopt any kind of propaganda. If we are questioning the state, we are doing a differentiation between the state and civilians. We are questioning the Israeli state, we are questioning Hezbollah, we are questioning Hamas, we are questioning the Houthis. We are also bringing into light more than 13,000 Lebanese people who have been killed. And more than 500,000 or more than 1 million people who had to evacuate. How do you know what is the truth? You are staying in India. Our media is creating a kind of echo chamber in which we are trained to hate people without meeting them, be it of any religion, class, gender, ethnicity. What does it do to you? And secondly, why should you care? It's not happening in your country. That is something which I have heard so many times by people who lack empathy towards any kind of human suffering. It is not an elitist project to think about Israel or Palestine. It is a humanist project. But at the same time, not everyone can afford it. Those who have the privilege to put food on the table and think can maybe, but there are many who can't because the daily turmoil itself is too much. One of the reasons that US presidency election showed us economy won over, the reason was the Americans were exhausted completely because of the high inflation, mortgage rate, food prices, real estate prices. They couldn't put food on the table. There's no mathematical genius answer to predict why Trump won. And there's no reason to critique him also, or critique all those people who voted for him. It's the oldest democracy in the world. So for you, if you want to understand the entire discourse of Israel-Palestine and why it should matter to you, and if you have the time, space, commitment, and also the financial capacity, then this course is for you. The Israel-Palestine course will start in 1 week's time. The classes will be held twice in a week. There'll be enormous amount of readings, but will be a very interactive based learning. Specifically because I myself have traveled to Palestine. I got 11 Indians safely crossing 3 borders in one day. Secondly, we are not here to take a stand, though it is said that being neutral in politics is also privilege and politics. But why do we have to have an opinion about something that we have a very cursory or hyper real idea about? Why do we have to become experts? First, we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn, and it's a very painful process. Edward Said said that both Israelis and Palestinians cannot escape the fate that has been given to them. Geography is our destiny. We are all prisoners of geography in whatever part of the world we are. So, what is India's role in it? I strongly believe that India can be the biggest and the only peacemaker. We have an 800-year-old hospice in West Bank that gives shelter to a lot of refugees. We have 85,000 Indian Jews in Israel. We have a lot of Indians working in Israel. It's about intelligence, diaspora, trade, and so much more. We have a long history. So the point is, as the very famous Israeli historian Amios said, the problem is that the Israelis have forgotten that once they were slaves. We have to talk about the destruction of the first temple, the second temple, and the intrinsic trauma. What is the Dreyfus affair? What happened? Why Zionism emerged? What were the reasons behind it? And Amios also said that the other problem is that the Palestinians have forgotten that they were once free. A land without people, for a people without land. How true is that? How true was the Balfour Declaration signed on 2nd of November 1917? And slowly, taking into consideration the wars, the intifadas, also learning a bit of Arabic in this process and a bit of Hebrew, we'll try to understand in our own way what is happening and why you should care. Not because you have been asked and made into a tool of propaganda. So, this is a 4-month course. We'll meet twice a week. The classes are going to be very rigorous. If you're only sure that you love to know in detail, only then enroll. Your time is as precious as